For 500.
So I'm going there to look to buy a place because it's way cheaper than renting. It's like one of the last bastions of like buying being cheaper than renting.
Alrighty.
Alrighty then. So we should have a party. We should have a bagel potluck.
And if we do it off campus, then we don't have to deal with the no alcoholic drink requirement.
Don't have to deal
More
with
than one way to handle a problem. That's good.
It's not alcohol, it's fermented stuff. They found that monkeys know how to. Monkeys and elephants, actually, monkeys in particular, actually actively mix wine by throwing fruits into like those holes, because of decay, in a tree trunk. So they would actually plan ahead of time and put fruit into a cavity and let it ferment, and then they all get there and get drunk and
a bunch of drunk monkeys.
yeah,
I saw a
Do they
monkey the
really
other
do that?
day
yeah,
using an iPhone, which was pretty impressive.
yeah.
Scrolling through photos and finding the videos of other monkeys and watching only those videos.
I would not be
It was
surprised.
really, really cool.
They say that the snow monkeys in Japan, where they have all those hot springs and stuff like that, they watch people, use a hot spring and they do the same thing. And then they would also ride the elks or the deers around in the hill. So if they need to go down the hill or up the hill, and here comes a deer, they would just kind of hop onto the deer. The deers don't really care, because deers are
It's gonna go down anyway.
it's a big animal, right? And these snow monkeys are not really that heavy. So to the deer, it's like, okay, fine. Instead of spending energy to kind of get them off of their back, it's like, okay, I'll just take you wherever you want. Yeah, I'm going where I'm going. You can just hop on and take off wherever you want. It's funny.
They're pretty smart.
They are indeed. So did you get a good handle on what we talked about on Monday and kind of incorporate it into your project?
I haven't tried yet. I was trying to finish the
Okay.
JavaScript, which I did finish.
Okay.
And so my plan of attack now is to finish building the app part,
Mm-hmm.
and designing that.
Okay.
And then I was gonna try to bring it into office hours to figure out how to put them
Or the lab
together.
time.
That's what
Yeah.
I meant the lab time
Yep.
to put the two together.
Okay.
So I have it set. I have it built so it pulls the ingredients list
Mm-hmm.
and it makes three variables. One for the quantity, like 1 cup, 2 cup, whatever. One
Mm-hmm.
for the measurement, like cups, tablespoon, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then one for the actual item. And then last thing I need to do before I finish the JavaScript is I want to be able to put those in each of its own array, right? So I have all the measurements in one. So then I can pull, like, index each one. Okay, this is the first ingredient where I grab
Okay.
measurement one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best way to do it. Measurement one, amount one, ingredient one, and then because I'm gonna have to rebuild that on the fly right. The way I was thinking about doing it was that it would be rebuilt on the fly in App Inventor,
Okay.
right?
Yep. You can do it. I mean, once you break it apart, you can rebuild
And
it.
then once it's on the screen or once it's in the app,
Mm-hmm.
then whatever, right? Then I
Yep.
can just manipulate it.
Okay. All right. But do we have any questions that I can answer? Like any particular
Most of my
technique?
questions are in JavaScript at this point. Are these
Um,
over the
I can
design
address.
parts?
At the lab.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we go over the you did one, I don't know what other people think with the where you designed the image, the graphic thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I don't know what people think about that or
you
how
mean,
that
do you
works.
want to look at the app that does it, or do you want to look at how to incorporate it into the app?
No, I think incorporating the app was easy enough. I feel like I have no idea where to begin on it because
How to
I
make
tried
it?
to convince my wife to do it. She said no. I was gonna pay somebody. Have you ever heard of I think it's called Fiverr.com.
Hmm.
It is great for things like that. You pay them $5, somebody in some other country, and they're usually pretty good artists, and they make you a set of icons or whatever. Because I have no art skills. Really? Trying to think of something.
Okay, it's supposed to
I
be.
guess this is not. No,
Okay, let's do that.
somebody else has to have something better.
There we go. So the app that or the program that I used to make that logo icon thingy, It's called Inkscape. And Inkscape is really cool. Okay, now I can uh, turn on, turn off, maximize.
Actually,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say this is probably not worth going over. I was gonna ask you. A better one is I still don't understand how to run the JavaScript somewhere and then get that because once that runs, don't we have to turn it in? The only way to
Okay.
get it would be turn it into JSON.
Yes. Well, it depends on what kind of object you're passing around. So this is the program that we did on Monday. So we can kind of do a quick review of that program. I sent
Yeah,
it to
let's
you
do
guys
that.
by AIA.
That'd be great actually. I don't know for other people, but
I think it's a great thing to do, for other people in the sense that they understand that a lot of times, one single component, it's not going to be enough to get something actually done. So you have to learn how to make several components talk to each other in order to get one thing done.
and so right now you were able to set up where you made an HTML, you put a
Right.
function, a JavaScript function in that, and then you called it basically through App Inventor,
Mm-hmm.
body on basically because the body on load ran it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put it in another box, right?
So let me go step by step and explain, how, what is step one, step two, and so on, for today's, at least to start the lecture. So the first thing is the click, right? So the click event of the button is where it starts everything. And it's going to the web component first to do a get. Now this is not a web view component, it is a web component. In other words, this is the one that has no user interaction capability. All you do is you specify the URL and then you go like, okay, go get that thing for me. And the way I did it was I wanted to get it and return a string because I did not check, save to file, in the properties of the web component. Okay, so let me go back and show you what.
And the address is in that property.
And the address is in the property of the web component, which means, but you can change that too. So when you look at the properties of a web component, all of these can be changed in your code. So I was just setting everything kind of statically, but you don't have to. If you click Save Response, then it will be saved to a file, and the response file name becomes important because that's where the document is saved to. But in my case, I just save it as a string because I'm passing it along to the JavaScript. So I don't really want to save it into a file. Allowing cookie or not depends on whether you are expecting some kind of interaction. Like you have to do one GET request. Based on the response, you have to get and put another GET request out, and those two have to be maintaining a session. If you need to maintain sessions, then allow cookies is going to be important. So are we okay so far with the properties of a web component? Good. Okay. So then in the blogs, I perform a get operation. I believe there's a post operation as well. So if you look down here, there's a post file, post text, and post text with encoding. So depending on the website that you're interacting with, some websites can only deal with get. Some website can only deal with post. So you kind of have to find out, what your recipe website can deal with, right? Can it only be dealing with GET requests? Can it also deal with POST requests and stuff like that? The purple block, the GET request block, is an asynchronous operation, which means it returns right away as soon as the request is sent out. Okay, so that means I would go set the button to false or set the enable of the button to false, so the button would be grayed out. If it takes a long time for power to respond, then you would actually visually see the button being grayed out until I get a response back from the power server. Okay. So this is it for the click, which is deceptively simple, because when the response of this GET request is coming back, it is not going to be here that I do all the processing. It's going to be this block that I do all the processing, which is also belonging to the web component, but the event is called got text. Okay, this is when I got the response back only as text, not as a file. Okay, there's another event handler for got file. Okay, this is got text. If you're dealing with a website that is not something that you're very familiar with, and potentially that could be issues or problems, you should probably check response code and make sure it's not an error code to make sure it's an okay code. Response type, typically you don't have to check, because most websites will return a text/HTML, okay? But on the other hand, if you are expecting a JSON, reply because you're using an API of some kind, then you need to check response type and make sure it is of the correct type of response. And then response content is the main thing. That is the actual HTML document in this case. It's the entire HTML document, okay? As one single string as a parameter. So inside this box here, this is only for debugging purposes. Setting the text of the text box to the response content is really just for debugging because I just want to see what I'm getting back. And then the next one is to re-enable the button, which is not really the best place to do it because I'm not really done with processing. But once I re-enable the button, I can send another request out. Now the most important parts would be these two, okay? So getting back to how your code or your app inventor program can interact with JavaScript, this is the key. The key is to first set the web view string of the web viewer. Okay, so this is not the web component, it's the web viewer component to whatever parameter you want to pass to it. So in this case, I'm passing the HTML document to the JavaScript. Is that okay? Yes.
You're passing where the tables were,
Yep.
the teachers and stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm passing the entire thing, the entire HTML document. And then the next thing we do is to trigger the web viewer to refresh. Because if you don't trigger the web viewer to refresh, it's just going like, okay, it's already done rendering the first time, so it's not going to do anything even if you change the web view string. So you have to use a go home in order to trigger the web viewer to refresh the page. Or you can change the URL that also automatically refresh the content of the web viewer. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. So at this point, it is kind of not important, but it's worthwhile to mention that for this application, this particular web viewer does not need to be visible. I made it visible just so that I can see, but I don't really need it to be visible because all I'm doing with this web viewer is to borrow the JavaScript interpretation engine in the web viewer in order to do the processing that I need to do. I'm not using it to display any type of content. I'm just using the JavaScript engine to do some processing. So I can turn off visibility, and the program will still work the same way. This is not going to change how the program works. It's just that it's not visible. Now, during debug phase, you might want to turn it on, make it viewable, so that you can crank out some text, so that you can see how your JavaScript is running, because there's no other way to do it. Unlike in Chrome, where you can turn on inspection, and then you can look at the log and stuff like that, there's no such facility in Web Viewer, so that makes it kind of difficult to debug your program. All right, so moving on. So now the control is passed to the JavaScript inside the web viewer, and we got that. It's called process DOM, document object model. That's what DOM is. So now we get to this code here. Let me recenter this. Yes. So go home. Mm-hmm. And then put it file.android or whatever. Yeah. Yep. So this is the actual inside of the HTML document. You're not really displaying anything important here. So the head can be empty, the body can, for the most part, be empty, and it's only the script that is going to be important. So the first part is onload process request for the body element. This is actually important because we want to make sure of the ordering of things happening. And this is actually also borrowed from App Inventor's own documentation. Yep. Yes, I did. Yes, I can double check. Where's my recorder? Oh, it's all the way to the end. There we go. Yes, it is on and audio is good.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, it's good to check. I understand. Okay, so inside here, we separate the code into two portions. Basically, everything from script will run first. So everything starting on this line, HTML to process, blah, 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 is going to run first. When the entire document is quote unquote rendered, then it will run on load. Okay, so we are making sure that whatever function we specify in onload, which is process request, is going to run after the rest of the code runs. Are we doing okay so far with that, the rationale?
Second onload function in there, is it asynchronous or does it go in order?
What do you mean by putting a second onload?
Well, you put process request, right? Let's say you wrote another function below that called Scooby-Doo.
It is sequential.
Process request, semicolon, Scooby-Doo.
I do not know. We can look it up. I don't know whether it will take any JavaScript statement or whether it has to be just one function call. I think it can take any statement.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just curious.
Okay.
I was just thinking, yeah, never mind.
But you can always make calls within the function, right? So you can use the function itself as a container to call as many other things as you want. So, but the important part is the first thing you want to do is to get web view string, and this is the way you get it, and you put it into a variable, in this case HTML to process. So the rest of the code has access to the HTML document as a string to process. This part here is really to debug. So this line, document.write, blah, 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 is only here for debugging purposes. Once the code is run, they can just comment it out.
Bless you.
So now the key is, okay, what about process request, which is going to be called by JavaScript when the body is fully rendered, okay? So this is the code inside your body process request. All the alerts are only for debugging purposes, because we couldn't find out, why the program was not working. So we needed to pinpoint, where it was stopping. Yep. So you can kind of ignore all the alerts, right? Because, well, I mean, yeah, you can leave them there, comment it out, or whatever. Okay.
Comment a statement.
Slash slash
Oh,
in
slash.
yeah in JavaScript it's just slash slash. Slash star. Yes, but slash slash is usually used more often, because you can do it on a line by line basis easily.
You do it at the end of the line too, right?
Nope, you don't need to do. This one you do need to do it at the end of the line too.
No, I mean you can put slash on the.
Oh yeah, yeah,
To write a comment.
yeah.
Describing what it is.
Yep,
What it's doing, yeah.
yep. Define a function to run with onload. Okay, yeah. So you can comment at the end of the line. So basically everything from slash slash all the way to the end of that particular line is ignored. It is all just comment.
Don't forget to uncomment document.write. I think you need that, right? That's not.
We don't need that.
That was.
It's just for debugging purposes. Yeah, that's just for debugging. So all of these alerts you can kind of uncomment. So with this particular program, because I want to extract the components inside an HTML document, using its structure. So the first thing we need to do is to use a parser to parse the HTML document. So that's what this line is about. Let me turn on the line number so I can refer to line numbers.
What is DOM?
Huh? Document object model.
No, sorry, I didn't finish my sentence. I know what DOM is, but DOM parser, that's something that's built in?
It is, DOM parser is built into JavaScript.
It's native? I didn't.
It should be a part of JavaScript, not even a part of just Chrome or App Inventor.
Everything I did was for nothing.
It's okay, you got the right idea. We just found a more effective way to do it, right? So it's all good. So you first make a parser. So the parser itself doesn't do a single thing until you tell it what to do. So line 12 is what you do. You tell the parser and say, okay, here's a string. It is known to be an HTML document, and go ahead and parse it. Break it apart into its components. That's what it's doing. So after line 12, then DOM, D-O-M, the variable becomes an object with the properties of all kinds, and it's basically breaking up your HTML document into its structural elements, and it's nested. Okay, it's hierarchical. And then after that, the next line that is important is line 15. So line 15 is extracting all the classes or all the elements by class name teacher. So I'm taking all the things that are teachers and extracting all of those um, into teacher's object. And then once we have that, then we do a stringify, JSON.stringify, which is also standard in all JavaScript implementation, to turn the object into a string so that we can pass it back to App Inventor. Is that okay? All right. So ignoring all the alerts, after this. So the last line that is really of significance is line 21, which is setting web view string to teachers, which is the JSON encoded version of the object, and that eventually will trigger. So are we ready to switch back to App Inventor?
Give me a second. I'll write
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think this is the same document as in the AIA file that I sent to you guys using announcement. So you can, if you don't receive the email, that's okay. You can go back to the announcement area of this class and download that document.
Yeah, I know. I sometimes like to write certain things. It's more
When
just
it's fresh.
to remember
Yep.
when I write it.
Hmm.
If I don't write it, I have a hard time remembering.
When did you send the email? 'Cause I don't remember.
I sent it on the same day, which is on Monday. No, I did this on Monday, so I sent it on Monday too.
Oh, I thought you were referring to the other day.
Yeah, but I sent it to the school account, so you have to check the school account for that.
I have to figure
It's
out
on the
how to check
announcement
the school
page.
account.
It is also on the announcement page, yes.
Okay.
Yep. But you have to sign into Canvas once in a while or check your school account once in a while. That's where you get all the notifications from your classes, from the college, and also from the district. Yep. All right, so after line 21 of JavaScript, then we switch back into App Inventor, because that is when your JavaScript sets web viewer string, that triggers this event in App Inventor to happen. So that's why we have to capture the event called web view string change, because that makes the connection back to App Inventor. And the value is the only parameter, and in this case, I'm only displaying it, so there's nothing really, important going on here. Yes?
I just realized, you had your fancy JSON code in
Mm,
your backpack
mm-hmm.
to break down JSON.
No, that one is just for encoding. To break
That
it,
was to encode.
that is to encode it.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
can you bring up the app and let me see what it looks like again?
Okay.
So it's just gonna display the JSON.
Yeah, it was not very exciting, because there were no actual content that it displayed. And I think that had to do with, there are,
Some content though.
no, it did not.
Teachers, I thought. Yes, I remember that. It was just the class name teacher or whatever.
Well, we'll run it again. So,
Yeah, you need to grab ID and set it by to .inner HTML as well. Like you just grabbed the class, you didn't grab the actual name or the text in your JavaScript code. Right? You have vars teachers object
mm-hmm.
get elements by class name, so you just grabbed the class, you didn't grab the what's in it.
Well, let's find out.
You need to put .inner HTML after that. If you want to actually grab
By class name. All right. So, let's see how it's described here. It says, returns an array-like object and all child elements,
yeah.
which all have this given class name.
It would just basically be a bunch of nodes, yeah.
When called on the document object, the complete document is searched, including the root node. You may also call getElements by class name on any element. It will return only the elements that are descendants.
So can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If you pull up that page with the table,
Okay.
the teacher's table,
Mm-hmm.
just grab that line and then use inspector and just type in the line in console. It'll show you exactly what it's doing, what it's grabbing, and we can look at it. It has like everything in there. I know what it's gonna have. You'll be able to like go first child and click but
Yeah.
it won't be the value of what you want, right? So we can see it. It's kind of cool.
Can we search here?
You don't need to. Like grab the line of code in your JavaScript code.
Oh, okay, I see. I see what you mean. Grab it
Just
here.
grab that one line.
We cannot just
Var
grab that
teachers
line.
object dom. Oh, because you have to do dom. You have to do dom first, or you have to do part. You have to just.
No, we don't have to, because the DOM is already document itself. So we can just say document get elements by class name.
And then so just highlight that line, the var teachers object,
Okay, gotcha.
and then put it in console, and you'll see what it grabs.
And then put here into console.
It's on top.
I see. Gotcha. And then just type here.
Yeah, but you change the docs document.
So,
It's showing you it's forced. But if you make this set a variable, then you can just type in the variable. So you
oh, but
can
each one is an object. So you
Here's what I'm
can,
saying. Like in the before document, just type in, I don't know, b equals.
yeah, but you can see how it is an array of 5 things.
Exactly.
When you look at each one, it is a TD. So actually,
So you need to go a little bit more specific, and then grab if you want the teacher name is what I'm saying.
I see. By name. But this is actually this is the object, right? So it does have the
Yeah,
teacher's name in it.
You want what I'm saying is instead of 0, type in .html inner, and it'll grab you.
Oh, okay, I see.
Case Rebecca, which
Okay.
is what you want, right? That's what technically what we're trying to get.
Okay, I see what you mean. Can I change that to query? No.
Just go to the next line.
Uh,
Push up.
but I was able to do it before. I just maybe that's before I pressed the enter key.
Yeah, it just shows you as you're typing. Inner, yeah.
Okay. But that is
There's a
still
way to even
structured.
get it without the H3, but I forget.
You have to
I think if you just do
get text. Inner text will
inner
do it.
text, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So you just push up. Should just come up, yeah. There you go, inner text here.
Yep.
There you go. So if you change that line in the JavaScript to that, then it'll look better on your app, right? It'll actually grab the teacher names.
I don't think
Show
so.
the adventure, no?
No, because you're talking about this line, right?
Yeah.
So teacher's object is still getting all the containers for all the, because it's getting the element that has a class name of teacher,
Yeah.
which is nested and hierarchical and stuff like that.
But don't you want the teacher name? Isn't that what we're trying to get? Not the actual.
Well, I mean, I wasn't actually targeting anything, specifically.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to get the teacher's name, then you have to do some additional processing, because you can't extract just the teacher's name from get elements by class name. This gives you an array of a bunch of objects, right? So if you want to extract only the teacher's name, this is what you can do. So you can say, okay, you guys would like this or not. And then you say for each, and then you specify function e, and then you give it an anonymous function. Yeah, it's really cool. And then we also need a new variable here. We'll call it teacher names. Okay, so which is an array. So now we can specify, teacher names. Yep, push, and then whatever the element is, dot inner text, and then close paren. I think this will get the job done.
That's going to build a new array called teacher's name.
Yes, and then we can stringify the teacher's name instead of the object. So we can say,
Save this, right?
well, it's getting streamed.
You just basically killed 2 hours of my work yesterday.
That's the power of JavaScript. It has the construct of.
Never even heard of for each. I didn't know
Yeah, for each is a method of an array, which basically is saying, okay, give me an anonymous function, and I'll apply that to every element in the array.
Yeah, I'm trying to like do some crazy little for loops and like
You can do it with a for loop.
yeah,
This is
it's just
just
so much more
easier.
efficient, right?
Yeah, but it requires your understanding of what an anonymous function is, because this function has no name because it doesn't need a name, because
You
all
can't
we are
call it
doing.
later or whatever. It's just in
Exactly.
that line
Yep.
as that runs.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yep. So you can do something like this if you want to do some processing. But the problem of what we had before, it didn't work before, was because it just returned a bunch of open and closed curly braces, because those were references to objects, and you cannot represent references when you are passing it, when you're stringifying it. So the stringify could not stringify because
It was just a reference. It was nothing to
because those are
stringify.
references to other objects, and it just tells you, okay, that's an object. There
So
was an
now
object
you're
here.
saying when you run it in the app, you should get a list of
You should get a bunch of names.
names.
Yep. Well, we'll give it a try, right?
You're right.
So save that. Yep. That's the playing the devil's advocate part, right?
Where's that teacher review thing? Oh, come back to me. To change some of my zeros.
All right. Yeah, it's okay. It is what it is. Process DOM.
You think if I gave you 0, I would just say it?
I cannot tell who gave me a 0, based on what they will show me in my evaluating.
I'm very surprised they don't just do that on Canvas at this point. It was really weird to do it on paper.
Yeah, it's a union issue.
I know, because the whole handwriting thing, if it was actually somebody I cared about or a teacher I wanted to give comments to, I don't want to write stuff and then they see who it is. I want it to be anonymous. At least Canvas is anonymous. Nobody can read my handwriting. I mean, everything else is done in Canvas, like this is hell old school.
Just write it with your other hand.
Killing the freebies.
Write with your weak hand. Yeah.
I like old school. I'm sorry for the members.
Then it looks like a ransom letter.
It is old school, but it's not. There's nothing good about it. It kills trees.
Do you
They
listen
have
to
to
the
carry
old
it.
school music?
I didn't say anything about old school. I'm talking about this specific thing.
I thought that was on paper.
Oh, okay.
My wife teaches, so I know she brings these home at like in the middle of the summer, and it's stacks and piles of them, and then they like stack, and then they go in the file drawer, and it's just ridiculous. You're not even allowed to throw things away apparently for 5 years or 3 years. I don't know what it is. You have to keep everybody's test. You have to keep everybody.
I scan everything and then I toss the paper away.
See, he found a way.
It's still a waste of paper.
No, he scans it.
The fact that the paper ever existed is a waste of paper, right?
No.
Okay.
Only because as we get older, our memory fades. So when we go to the screen and the screen doesn't work properly, we shut the screen down and we say we'll get to you next week. And then 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, then we remember that we didn't get to it because the paper wasn't there to remind us to get to it.
That seems like a personal thing.
No, it's a generation thing. Because the generation,
Yeah. So I mean, but all generations gonna, all our generations are gonna be done.
huh?
All our generations will be older generations, right?
Right.
Eventually.
Oh, that didn't work. It did not refresh this. Okay, so we got after parser, after parsing, and then we have object HTML document,
That was the alert.
and it broke.
Yeah, it was alert
Okay, so let's find out.
It worked better last time.
It worked better last time.
Let's first check all our stuff.
Yeah, check your stuff.
So it did report after parsing, it alerted the DOM, and then is that how we create an array, empty array
No,
in
it's new array. It's new
array open?
lowercase space array, and something like that. I don't
Okay.
know parentheses. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Yeah, because it has to be an array first before I can push into it.
Yes, it does. But I thought push would automatically. It's new array, yeah, parentheses.
Oh, and then we have a different teacher's name. I did not use my name variable names correctly here. Yeah.
Spelling.
Yep. There we go. All right.
And then read, oh, you've already named this
Hmm?
variable. You want to use this name?
Yeah, because I think that probably was the issue. Because push, I think, would have automatically created the array for you. I think. Although it's always good practice to just make the array first. Let's see, like I might hit just creating whatever that thing. What was that called? Yeah, for each.
Yeah, if you just look up all the methods of an array, you'll be amazed what kind of stuff it can do. There's a filter. Uh, there's a you can splice an array, and yeah. So
Yes.
when you
Yes.
splice an array, it returns whatever you're splicing, whatever you're removing.
Yep. You can remove a certain amount. You can put it wherever you want.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually have to use that. Well,
Yeah, JavaScript is an interesting programming language. It's far more flexible than most people think it is.
Because switching between this class, I'm doing all this JavaScript, and then switching to Python, so I'd be writing in Python, and then I'm like, dot splice, like at the end of everything. I'm like, oh, it doesn't work that way. It's confusing.
Yep, it would be nice if they can just kind of settle on one universal scripting language. Okay, parsing. Nope, it's still not working. After parsing, we got the document, and then we got stuck again. Okay, so I'm going to I'm just wondering, can I copy and paste all this code into the console?
Yes, you can. That's how I do everything, frankly. And then you
We
do
got the
that.
DOM already.
You need to name. Oh yeah, I already have it. You copy the function, and then you just run the function. It'll be in console. Yeah, do that. Try that. I mean, that's how I've done everything. I don't really.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how to do this so that I can just copy and paste, because I can say var dom equals document
Yes,
first.
you can do line by line too.
It says undefined. Okay.
Normal.
Then we can just copy and paste the rest,
Yes, you can do that too.
because now we have DOM, right? So we can now say this. Okay, so we can copy that and then paste it here.
If you want to really debug, you can do one by one. Yeah.
Okay, it says uncaught type error
It's not a function.
for each is not.
You just made that up.
Well, I thought if it's an array, that's for each.
You know what's weird though? You're pushing e.innerText.
Yeah, but the first thing it was complaining is for each does not exist, right?
Yeah, but sending back error messages sometimes I think it does.
That's the professor of the class that's right after us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Why don't you try just doing that console.log just to see if the for each works?
well, let's check the documentation first. The syntax, examples, specification. Okay, let's check the specifications here. All right, so we want to know what it's returning. Okay, it returns an HTML collection, so it's not technically an array.
That's what I'm saying.
Ah, okay. Of the elements in the object on which the method was invoked. Okay, must return the list of elements with class name blah 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 for context object. But it is not considered an array. That is kind of the problem.
Can you go back to it?
Yep.
Like, no, go back to console. So we can just look at. So you're setting.
Well, let's
Okay,
just do that.
So I would just take the for each part out and then just go piece by piece.
No, well, we can do piece by piece, but we can also just kind of look into what it is returning, because I'm just. get.
I get what it's saying because I get what you're saying. So elements by class name, you're grabbing teacher. It's just gonna give you a list of nodes. Like you have it. Yeah, just type in the teachers now and then just hit enter so you can see what it's doing. I'm gonna show you, and then you can expand that. Right? It's
Yeah.
not really an array. It's a collection.
It's a collection. It is,
Yeah.
which is not an array.
So that's why you can't do the for each on it yet. It's not an array yet. So I would just break this
Well,
into two pieces.
but then we can look into what is a HTML collection, right? HTML.
It's a collection of arrays. What? Yeah. Can't. You just have to tell it what you want to put in the array. Like it's too much. If you open the expand that list, it's a huge list that goes all the way down to like first child list.
Yeah, it's a list, so you cannot use the for each. Sucks. It's a list. It's not a. Yeah, there's no quick and easy way to do it. Oh, array from. Okay.
There is a quick way to do it.
Okay, I see. So they can turn it into an array using array from. Okay, gotcha. So that means the fix is to do it like this: array
That's weird.
dot from, and then you close the paren here. And so now we have an array to process, right?
Yeah, it's just weird for JavaScript.
I like pictures. I just have one.
Yeah, it's like way over my head.
Yeah, this stuff is it's definitely a little bit.
You're trying to do everything in one line. Too.
Yes, I'm obsessed with that sort of
You
thing.
are. Like you can just easily see, and then you can expand 0, 1, 2, and whatever.
Okay. So Ray is complaining about undefined. What is undefined? Can we do that? Nope. Array dot from, and we have a list. The idea is to turn it into.
So yeah, every time I've done this, and I've done this in multiple places, I've always ended up grabbing what I want, and then doing a for loop, and grab each piece, pushing it into the array.
Yeah.
Much longer and not as fancy, but it works.
No, we can do it. So now with that, can I do a for each? Yeah, okay, undefined is returning
Yeah,
is
undefined is fine. That just means it ran.
okay. So we want to print, or we want to look at what is teacher object, right? Teacher's object, because that's supposed to be in it. Can we print? Yep. Teachers obj undefined.
I don't think you ran it yet though. You didn't actually.
I thought I did.
You didn't set teachers.
Here.
Oh.
Yeah, I pushed it.
Right. Print. Just write teacher's object.
Or we can just alert it, right? Okay, that's good. It's still considered an object, but that's okay.
It did that for 5 times.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So now we can just say e dot inner text. So now it has Professor Hayes, da 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 da. So it does work. So array dot from is the way to do it.
So if you were to put this in your JavaScript now, the teacher's name should finally appear on your app? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm guessing so. So this is the same code that I have in the logger. Pretty sure.
No misspellings. Teacher's name dot push. I don't think you got that in there.
Yeah, because we.
We're pushing onto his teacher's name.
Yeah, I was just alerting it.
You weren't doing array from, are you?
Okay, fine.
I'm just making sure I understand what's going on.
Okay, so instead of alerting,
I want to see the teacher's name on the app.
okay, unknown type error cannot read property push of
Try to push on the object, teacher's object, not the array. You typed in teacher's object dot push.
oh, it would be teacher names as an array.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I don't think there's a print.
Yep, there you go. Because we have been pushing it a few times already. So each time we push it, it was actually successful. So we just appending. We keep appending to it. All right. So you got the solution.
I'm not gonna change what I wrote. Yeah, well maybe I will. I won't be able to resist.
Yep. But do you guys have any specific questions about your app?
I have some, but I'll mention it in lab.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just overwhelmed by what all this stuff I just saw.
This is how we actually write code. I mean, the JavaScript part is actually how we write code for a lot of applications now.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So that's this is one of the more popular programming languages today. JavaScript. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do App Inventor first.
And to advertise for one of our sister colleges, I think Folsom Lake College, now they are starting to have a JavaScript programming class. I think it's CISP 408. I don't think they will get this far and talk about anonymous functions and how to get through an array and do all the conversion stuff. Yeah, because trust me,
I think it was a whole class.
Oh, JavaScript takes more than one class. I mean, JavaScript in many ways is actually a richer programming language compared to Java or C++.
You know, I'm gonna make a stupid comment, but it's the truth. Like all my life, I didn't realize JavaScript was a language. Like I always messed around with it,
Mhm.
work and stuff, and people always made me feel like lesser because I would use JavaScript instead of Ruby or whatever, And
Because it has the name script in it, right? Yeah.
And so I was convinced that it's not considered a programming language. I'm like,
Nope. It's
wait, I can say I actually somewhat know programming language.
in some way it is more powerful than C++, Java, and more and those quote unquote more.
Easy.
My first
Easier than C++.
I wouldn't say it's easier. I would not say it's easier. In many ways, it's actually harder because it's not a strongly typed language, which means if you make a mistake, there's no compiler to check the usual stuff and go like, oh, you might have a mistake here. You don't know until you run it, which is kind of what we are running into. Is
And then there's jQuery, right?
yep.
Which is just like a
Wow, another language?
no. I think jQuery is JavaScript, but
jQuery